Hey everyone, and welcome to another Konoha Reviews, where we review games both new and old on all platforms. If you like the content that I make, then please subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a review when it comes out. Today we talk about Star Citizen. This game, of course, has officially not been fully released yet, and is still in its alpha phase. However, by now, of course, this game is well known for almost having become a meme on the internet for the game that will never fully release, or the game that is stuck in eternal development. I actually started playing it back in March of 2016 after it had already been in development for several years, and we are now almost 5 years further and still nowhere near even a full release. What I wanted to do with this video is look at the current state of the game and if it's worth playing and paying the regular PC game price of $50 for it. So I will almost kind of review it as if it were early access, which it technically is, and it will be a similar review like I did with Phasmophobia. This means that I am well aware that many of the critique points that I have could very well be fixed in later patches before the game is fully released, so please keep that in mind. But seeing how long it is taking the game with being released, I think it is safe to say that we will not see a full release for at least another 3 years. Because of that, what I want to do is make a video once a year to see what changes have been made to Star Citizen and if the game has become better and maybe then more worth your time. So a review, so to speak. Each year the game gets updated at least 4 times every 3 months, so in 4 patches they should be able to change a lot on paper. The good thing too is that if this early review might not be in its favor, that the score can only go up as they pump out new content and more patches in the upcoming future. So please again, keep in mind that any critique I have in this video will potentially be fixed in the future as the game has officially not been fully released yet. Now without further ado, let's take a look at what Star Citizen has to offer in its current state. Star Citizen was a crowdfunded game project that was an enormous success. I believe that by now it has raised over $300 million, and because of that increase in scope, the ambitions of the project also skyrocketed. Where the developers first wanted to create a AAA space sim with current technology, Star Citizen slowly changed into the promise of creating the ultimate space game of all time. Meaning it would not only have space flight with ships and your standard gameplay mechanics like exploration, trading, and ship combat, but it also would have various entire planets and moons you could land on and explore on foot, head into towns and cities, talk to people, and take on missions and even fight on foot with weapons like pistols and rifles. It was basically the ultimate wet dream for any sci-fi enthusiast out there. Whether they just wanted to live out their dreams as a bandit or smuggler on a Blade Runner-esque planet on foot, or explore the unknown galaxy in a ship of their own. It had something for everyone. But how does one go about creating and releasing such a major game idea? I remember they first started with a few modules that were nice, but did not have me all that interested yet. The way the game worked back in the day is that you bought a particular ship for real money, and with some, the game itself would be accompanied as well. The threshold of this was usually at the $45 or $50 mark, meaning the average price of a PC game, and with that ship, you had the basic necessities to start out slow. There were much more expensive ships out there as well, and a friend of mine, Spiral, for those who want to know, even paid somewhere close to $200 for a particular ship that still is not implemented in the game, which is always hilarious to me and my other friends. Talk about being cucked. So after you bought your ship, the first update that was released was that you could walk around the hangar and look at your ship from the outside and inside. Cute, but not worth the price yet in my opinion. Not even when they added races or the space combat module, which lets you have simple dogfights in an open area, had me convinced to pay money for it. It wasn't until they had their first iteration of open space that I got interested, and that was in early of 2016 when I finally made the plunge and started playing the game. Now back then it was an absolute mess with bugs and glitches happening all the time. Characters falling through floors, torsos disappearing, getting randomly ejected and killed from your own ship. It was quite disastrous, but still me and Spiral were very blown away by the sheer scope of this galaxy and the various space stations and areas we could go to. We saw it had potential and hoped that they would add more and more very soon. Now skip ahead 5 years to today, and they have indeed added quite a lot more since then. There are now indeed various planets and moons you can go to and land on and even explore. Multiple cities have been added that are very large and sprawling and very cool to discover and walk around in. A few more missions and mission types have been added, including some NPCs with dialogue, and other systems like hunger and thirst, reputation, and even a criminal record system has been introduced as well. Sounds all very cool, right? And it is at first glance, for I think Star Citizen kinda bedazzles anyone who plays it for the first few minutes. But if one were to go and look a bit deeper and more into the gameplay, there's a lot of cracks that still show themselves, unfortunately. Actually, in reality, I was really liking and loving and even recommending the game to many friends while playing it on a surface level, which unfortunately changed when I started to play the game properly. But first, let's begin about the positives, because there are definitely some positive things to have here with Star Citizen in its current state. Now originally, I wanted to already make this video before Cyberpunk 2077 came out, but other games and projects got in the way, so I did not manage that. One reason why I wanted to do this is because I was afraid that Cyberpunk 2077 would blow the cities in Star Citizen away with how detailed it was, and it definitely did. But before Cyberpunk 2077 came out, I never had seen anything like this in any other game. Now granted, the scale of the cities in Star Citizen is much larger, but in terms of places you can actually go in the city, it's still very limited, and when comparing detail within the city with City of Cyberpunk, Cyberpunk is clearly the way more detailed one. But as I said, before Cyberpunk, I had never seen anything like it. Cities like Area 18 or ArcCorp were the ultimate Blade Runner recreation in a video game, with tall skyscrapers and neon signs as far as the eye can see. It was an absolute blast to walk around and see all the cool buildings, commercial signs, and ships flying over and under you at the bridges. You could head into various shops and look at weapons, clothes, or armor. And places like the spaceport transfers or customs areas were very cool too to just walk around in and take in the atmosphere, despite there nothing really to be done there. Travel from the city district to the spaceport is seamless, and getting into your ship and flying off, leaving the planet behind only to head to a new one, is something absolutely magical and has to be experienced at least once. It's breathtaking and still manages to impress me despite having it done so many times already. The same goes for Lorville, another city on a different planet that aesthetically is way closer to something like Deus Ex with a lot of black and yellow colors being used. It's far more industrial and grimy, but still on a massive scope, unlike anything you've ever seen. The cool thing is that it's such a different vibe from other major cities on planets, like ArcCorp or New Babbage. On Lorville, there are cables and sand everywhere from the constant work and industry that flows through the city. Heavy armed guards patrol the streets, and you get the feeling that there is a far more strict regime at play in this area. The bars are dirty and grimy, the shops are busted and dusty. But the cool thing too is that you can take the train system on various planets to head to various districts within the city. This is where the exploration part of the city really comes into play. You see, for the moment, it's not like you can enter each building you see or even go near it. Instead, you have multiple open areas that are connected by train lines. It all moves in real time though, so if you have a friend who's flying a ship above the city, he or she can actually see your character actively travel with the train to a different location, showing it's not actually a loading screen, which is very impressive. And another district in Lorville is a bit more prestigious, with large looming gold statues giving a watchful eye and offices laid down with marble floors that are so clean and shiny, a stark contrast to that of the other districts, but therefore all the more interesting to explore. And there isn't really anything to do here other than to explore. You can head into various offices, read mural texts about the history of Lorville and its leaders, and check out some weapon prototypes, but that's about it. Maybe not so interesting for those wanting to find some action, but for the role player or sci-fi nerd, it's incredible to be submerged in such a believable sci-fi world on such a scale. Me and Spiral had a blast just walking around Lorville and other cities and constantly saying, "Hey, look at this! This looks so cool!" Despite me saying that Cyberpunk 2077's city is more detailed, does not mean that Star Citizen cities are not detailed at all. On the contrary, there's a lot of detail, but just now in comparison, not as much. But still there is enough detail to make each area so believable and unique and fun to just explore and take it all in. In a way, I realized that, were it a sci-fi walking simulator, Star Citizen would be incredible. And this might sound like an absurd statement, but it really is that interesting and fascinating to just walk through all those gigantic futuristic cities and see all there is to see. If you go into one building, for example, you can view some awesome looking ship models and prototypes on display, whereas if you were to enter a different area, you might come across a relaxing garden and meditation area. Or at various spaceports, come across a souvenir shop with even custom created mascots for that planet. For just those who want to go sightseeing and visit the various planets and cities and see what they are all about, it's a great experience, and the areas are big enough to where it will occupy you for a few hours. Other cool things are the many different things you can spend your money on in the game. Besides the obvious like clothes and weapons, of which the variety is by now very good, and the prices are also acceptable. There's also armor to buy, ships to get and rent, and even ship components to buy for the really tech nerds out there. You can pimp out your ship and give it more powerful engines or weapon upgrades, or even increase the capacities of traveling at light speed. It's ship tuning porn for the ship enthusiast, just as Gran Turismo used to be that for the car enthusiast. Often there are various panels you can interact with to look up statistics on the ship, mess with turrets if they have them, or just interact with other things like doors, cabinets, and more. There's now also foods and drinks that you can buy, and overall I would say that there's enough different and interesting things to buy on which you can spend the money on that you've gathered through trade or missions. Besides just exploring the cities, you can also just head to a planet or moon and set down your ship anywhere you want and start exploring. Now currently there still is not a whole lot to see out there, but the scale itself is still very impressive, and they did make sure to add various mining or trading facilities out in the wild to also have some buildings or areas you can go to in order to trade or process items. Then also I should say that the combat itself does feel nice, both with ships and on foot, with weapons packing a nice punch and each feeling different and distinct, with some using actual bullets while others use lasers or plasma. It's a good motivation to keep going and save up money for that next big gun or rifle. And as I said, for a very long time I only played this game on a service level, meaning I would just hop into a ship with friends, fly to various planets and cities, and start exploring together, and just have fun. We didn't really do any missions, but we just explored, try out different ships, bought different clothes, weapons, or armor, but basically never more than that. It was also because at least one or two of us always had technical issues, which we will address in a second, but basically that was all we did. Then I finally started to dive a bit deeper into the game and wanted to start earning some cash and do some proper missions, etc. The heart of the game when it comes to gameplay. And I was pretty shocked about how bad it is at the moment. Again, as mentioned before, this is technically early access, and these missions are bound to be patched much better, but for now it's so buggy and messy that can often ruin the experience altogether. There's a variation of mission types you can do. You can use a neat little device to look up what missions are available at the current time, since they will change depending on when and where you are. You have your standard delivery missions, where you bring items to various planets and kiosks. You have salvage missions, where you head out to a beacon and collect and clean up certain materials before disposing them. You have investigation missions, where you need to find someone, sometimes in a cave or somewhere else. There are bounty hunter missions, where you need to track down and kill a target, or other missions like repairing security checkpoints, or missions of an illegal kind like smuggling. Sounds like a pretty good amount of variation, but again, many of these missions are buggy and might end up with you just wasting your time. It could happen that the person you are looking for in a cave is not properly spawned there or bugged out. With bounty hunter missions, it could be that the tracking point does not properly show up. And besides missions, another way to earn money is by trading resources from one planet to the other. This trading principle has been present in some of the oldest space sim games out there, and always has been the aorta of earning money in games like EVE or X3. And the interface and way it should work in the game is easy enough. You head to various kiosks with computer screens on the planet you are at, and choose a ship you want to use for storage. Each ship has, logically, different storage capacities, so you choose the ship that has the most storage for you at that moment. You choose what kind of resources you want to buy, like scrap, agriculture supplies, medical supplies, aluminum, etc. And then you head to the ship that has these supplies, fly over to another planet or city, and head to another kiosk and sell it hopefully for a better price so you make a profit. Easy as can be, right? Well, here too, there are many bugs and errors that can really mess with you. I've had multiple times where a ship would not spawn when I requested it and eventually bugged out to where it lost its cargo, meaning I lost the investment that I did on buying the resources. I had ships randomly being duplicated or disappear. I've also seen other players in chat that have these bugs with trading and similar experience to losing money that way. And since you keep flying from planet to planet, your fuel is going to run out, which you have to replenish, which works easy enough, and I will say that the prices are also decent enough to where they will not drain your wallet. But it is an annoyance if moments before that a delivery bugged out and you lost all those credits you spent on buying those goods. Then there are also all of the glitches and bugs with just the world itself and its NPCs. You will sometimes see certain areas not properly load, or NPCs randomly stand on top of tables or chairs, or even multiple characters standing one another. In a sense, there is a very comparable thing to something like Cyberpunk 2077, but at least Cyberpunk had a ton of gameplay that actually did mostly work on PC. It's also that none of the NPCs in Star Citizen talk, and the overall vibe of the cities is kinda dead, to be honest. They all just stand or sit and say nothing, only to do a particular animation once in a while. With Star Citizen, there's still gameplay that can be fun when it works. In fact, when it works, it's even brilliant. As said, the dogfights and shootouts on the ground are fun, and the training is as good as other games when you don't get stupid glitches or bugs ruining the experience. There are crashes and other errors, and it's just that each time you try to play Star Citizen and give it another chance, something stupid will happen that will ruin that experience. Again, on a surface level, as an exploration or even walking simulator type setting, I think the game works fine. There's enough to see and varied locations to visit that are awesome. But there's just nothing to do, and the gameplay that is offered at the moment has a high chance to bug out or have something else happen which is unexpected. At the beginning, when I had the idea for this video, I wholeheartedly would have recommended Star Citizen, because I only had witnessed a fraction of what the game had to offer and thought that the rest would also work properly, though maybe a bit being glitchy. But after actually having tried to properly play the game, I can come to no other conclusion but to not recommend the game in its current state, at least not for the price of an actual game. Star Citizen has many free fly weeks, where for a single week any player can try the game for free and they will get a range of different ships to try out. For they who are curious, I would definitely recommend to wait for those, because for new players, the exploring and seeing this galaxy for the first time is enough to warrant that time out of your week for that one. But for those who want to do more than just walk around and do some sightseeing, I would really suggest to still keep your wallet in your pocket for now. In terms of what is on offer when it comes to the missions and the mission types, there is enough to last several hours, but it just doesn't always work. Once again, the game is currently in its alpha stage, so all of my critique can be polished and fixed with the upcoming patches and updates before the game comes into beta and is ultimately fully released. I am really afraid, though, that the longer they wait with its full release, that we will get more games that will impress us more than this game, because I'm sure that in the next coming 2 to 3 years, we will get various games that will absolutely blow us away, even more so than this one, even with its enormous scale, and I hope that its long development process won't become its ultimate downfall. In the end, Star Citizen at its current state gets a 6.5, and that is only because the game looks so amazing and it's so great to walk around and explore it. But other than that, there's still just too much wrong with it, to where I cannot warrant the price of a full game. And since the game, of course, is at a stage that isn't a full game yet, that is completely fine. As I said before, the good thing about this is that with upcoming updates and more content that they add, the score can only go up. But the question is, how much and how good will the content be? That will then shape the score of the next time we will take a look at this game and see if the score has hopefully risen to a 7 or maybe a 7.5 or even higher. Despite my critique, I would like to repeat that I am a big fan of this game and its philosophy, and still support it in the hopes that it will become that ultimate sci-fi game of which we all dream of. I wish Star Citizen all the best in upcoming patches and updates, and hope to see a better and more awesome version next time we make a video on it.